Hi, I'm Joanne from the Full Spectrum Centre Limited, an award-winning wellness and vocational training centre, and you're listening to the Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast. This show is all about physical, mental, emotional and spiritual wellness, and it's for people who are looking to improve their overall health and well-being. Each week, I'll share with you all the positive takeaways, tools, techniques and tips that I've gathered in both my personal and professional wellness journey that will help you to look, feel and be well. With a dose of motivation and meditation to keep you going, I'll be joined by a few friends who will be sharing their insights along the way too. Welcome to episode 29 of our Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast. I'm so happy and excited to be back here with you for our 29th episode. Now today I'm joined by a very special guest, Michelle Stevens, a former specialist physiotherapist who took a leap of faith to prioritise her own health and well-being and provide for her sons. Michelle now empowers women to look and feel amazing, as well as start their own business if they want to, and achieve both time and money freedom. I hope her story inspires you as much as it inspired me. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to our Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast.
Hi, Joanne. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I can't wait to share your inspiring story with our listeners. You've definitely inspired me. I want to jump straight in and ask you what the word wellness means to you.
So, I suppose wellness means a whole host of things. If I think back to when I was younger, wellness to me was very much around the physical side of things. But as things have evolved over time, I think of wellness as the overall human being, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually. Even in environment, every factor can really contribute to our overall wellness and our well-being. So I suppose that's how I see wellness.
I love that. And what are you passionate about in life? What are your passions?
I've always been passionate about helping people. I am one of those people that tells everybody something's good and I tell everybody something's bad. So I'm somebody that's always wanting to share experiences and help other people benefit. So if I've enjoyed something, I want everyone to know that that's good, or if I've learned a tip. And so one of my passions is that. The other thing I've been very passionate about all my life is health and well-being. As I say, my background was in physiotherapy. I was always fascinated about the way the body works and how we can take care of that. And I think that we live in a society where that isn't always on the forefront of our minds because of our own health service. And therefore, that's something I really like to have a passion about, of people helping themselves, I suppose.
Yeah. When you were doing your physio work, did you work within the NHS or was it private practice or a bit of both?
I was in the NHS for 12 years and I did do a little bit of private, but if I'm honest, I found that private didn't allow me the scope to do what I thought I would be able to do with the private, because I worked for a private practice where they wanted me to see a patient for a set number of times and a set period. And so that, again, for me, doesn't really fit in alignment with how I want to help people. If I can get you better in 5 minutes, then I think that's worth every money. If you need longer, you have longer. And that's how I kind of operate. So I was in the NHS for 12 years.
Fantastic. And so I know you took a leap of faith, didn't you? And this is one of the things that really inspired me about you when I sort of found you. Tell us how you became interested in isogenics, particularly in network marketing, coming from that physio background and having that really stable job. You know, to get a job in the NHS is like, it's like the golden goose, isn't it? So what made you take that leap of faith?
If I'm honest, it was more the fact that I started to significantly struggle with my mental well-being. I had severe anxiety, which meant I lost all my confidence as a physiotherapist. I used to cry between patients. I used to be sick on my days of work. And I stumbled across network marketing quite by chance. I had some surgery that had gone slightly wrong, should we say. And I was wallowing in my own self-pity, and I was eating the wrong foods. I stopped exercising and I'd gained weight, and I started to use some products, started to lose weight, and I told people about it. I started to earn money, and I had no idea what the industry was. I wasn't looking for a job at the time. Like I say, I was really, really struggling at the time. But what that showed me, I suppose, is a different way that people can earn a living, a way that I had no idea existed. I went to university, I then worked, I then went back and did a master's, I then got my job as a physio, and that's all I knew. And so it got so bad, my mental wellness, that my dad actually said to me, "You need to leave your job." Now, for my dad to tell me, my dad was from a financial background, to tell me that I needed to walk away from a pension, holiday
Mm-hmm.
pay, sick pay, security of an income, told me how bad my mental wellness was, and that he was really, really worried about me. And it was that catalyst that kind of made me, I would already thought about it. I hated work. I lost, as I say, all my confidence. And then I left my job as a physiotherapist. And then while I was kind of recovering from that, I came across isogenics. But at the same time as being there, I was in an environment that wasn't particularly helping me. I was in a marriage that was toxic to both of us, my children, and I really felt quite trapped because I'd left my career, because I was earning a bit of money in network marketing, but it wasn't a lot of money. It was reasonable, but it wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across Isogenics, and they showed me their products, they showed me their business model, and they showed me a system, a roadmap to success. I still don't really know what was in me to take that leap of faith and go for it, but something inside me intuitively made me trust the people that I'd met, and I basically said, "Show me how I can do this, and show me how hard I can do it." And that enabled me to leave my environment. And the last 5, coming up 6 years, I've been building life as a single mum, but a financially independent single mum, which I'm extremely proud of. And it was something that I had a real stigma to for a number of years. So it kind of evolved. But what I am is someone that's very open. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not closed. I don't listen to other people's opinions. I always do my own due diligence. And I
Yeah.
suppose I looked at network marketing in the beginning. Um, I looked at what was the worst that could happen. Nothing. There wasn't anything. It could either do what people were saying it could do, or it didn't. But I hadn't really lost anything, and so I kind of thought, do you know what? Why not? And it was the
Wow.
best one I ever made, to be fair.
Absolutely. And I say you're so inspiring. For a lot of people, network marketing has kind of this, I don't know, it puts people out. I must admit, I was totally honest with you when I was first approached, not particularly about isogenics, but just, the generic common ones going back years, and you'd like, oh, not another message. Oh no, you're just trying to sell me something. And I think people have this view of network marketing, and until you're actually in it, actually, it's just like any other company. There's a
Yeah.
managing director, there's a
Yeah.
manager, there's employees. It's just the same. But I think people have this opinion that it's like a pyramid scheme and it's a scam, and it's really not. And for me, I joined, and then Isogenics bought the company we were with. But I was using, like you, I was using the products anyway. So it's like, if I can earn a bit of commission for sharing that, and I wouldn't share a product that I didn't like or didn't work for me anyway. So I think a lot of people who are successful at it come into it with that sort of approach, don't they? Rather than trying to do it as.
That's very much. Now, there are people that join for the business. They're looking for an income opportunity. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
At the time, I couldn't even see the wood through the trees. So the thought of looking for a business, when I think back 10 years ago, when I was really poorly, wasn't even on my radar. I'd actually reduced my hours from work as opposed to increase in wanting to
Yeah.
take on more opportunity. But I was struggling with my health at the time, something I hadn't really in the past. And I had no idea what network marketing was. And you know what? I'm so grateful I didn't, because I had no preconceived ideas. I was totally open. I saw the product, they were great. I saw the business model and was like, I can do that. Whereas, and I literally had no objections whatsoever, because I had no risk attached to it. I think I'd always wanted my own business, always had this dream that I would have my own practice. But the hours I would work, the money I would have to spend into that, the time away from my children, it just was never going to be a reality. And what
Yeah.
I found in network marketing is a way that I can have a global business, which I have. My business is in 16 different markets, but I built a global business around being a full-time mum. And I didn't know that existed. So because I was
Yeah.
open to that, and I was open to learning, and as I said, I didn't have any preconceived ideas, but that I've always been quite an open person. And that's what I would, I always think is, unless you've done it or you have really looked into it, you don't know. So why not do your own due diligence?
Yeah.
And then make your own decision. It's not going to be for everyone, in the same way that I don't want to be a plumber, or I don't want to be a physio anymore, but that doesn't mean it wasn't right for me then. We're all very different, and that's what makes the world a very beautiful place. But it's a
Absolutely.
great opportunity for people to earn an additional income, whether that's a few £100 a month, whether they want to leave their job, whether they want to travel the world. It is an endless opportunity, and that really does exist.
Yeah.
You're willing
Absolutely.
to work, learn the steps, keep it simple, and do the work, basically. But it is a
Yeah.
business. It's not a get rich quick, which I think sometimes can be portrayed on social media.
Yeah.
And it's that people know is BS.
Yeah.
And for that can carry quite a bit of, well, it's just one of those scams, because people are acting like they made $1 million in a day, which is not, it's not possible. And I'm really realistic about that. Like, I work hard in my business, the same as I worked hard as a physio.
Yeah.
But I do the steps, and what I love about what I do is the flexibility and the choice. So I can take the boys to school, I can go to the gym, I can walk the dog, do a bit of work, then go back, get the kids, do their football, rugby, and that works for me. It wouldn't work for everybody.
No. And like you say, the opportunities are endless, aren't they? You get out of it what you put into it. So you can take your pick of how you want to run it, but like you say, it is a business, and you've got to work at it. But I think I would imagine that for you, this particular company, it buys into your mission in life, which was to help people. So you've replaced helping people physically with a physio to helping them with their health and well-being.
100%. And first of all, that started very much in the nutrition, which was fascinating to learn, because would you believe I had a sports science degree and a physio degree, but the amount of nutrition knowledge they taught me was really poor.
Mm-hmm.
The multiple choice. And when I think now what I know about the effect on the body from the lifestyle and the diet of what we eat, then I could have helped many people as patients to just look at what they're eating. Instead, I just tried to fix the symptoms, fix what was going on, because I worked in
Yeah.
outpatient. But yeah, first with the nutrition, and then we introduced our collagen, and then we introduced our nootropic. So we really do offer support in so many different ways. And we've got a new product coming out on Friday, which I know is one of your favorites. But another product coming out which is a stress for supporting people through stress. So more and more, what's being introduced is more and more how I want to be supporting people in whatever their problems are, to achieve the goal and help them with that problem, help solve that problem.
You touched a little bit on you'd had surgery and it went a little bit wrong. And what other kind of challenges have you faced on your own wellness journey?
Oh, goodness. So a lot of my health challenges were my mental wellness. I struggled. So 10 years ago, 12 years ago, coming up now, I had an ectopic pregnancy, and it ruptured, and I nearly died. And they told my time I had an hour left to live. I was bleeding internally. And I just remember them shouting. I don't remember anything. But that was a real turning point. Up until then, I'd been healthy. I'd kind of sailed through life. I was one of those people that you think nothing ever seems to go wrong. She's always healthy. I did have asthma, and that triggered my asthma. And my asthma was really bad when I was pregnant with Thomas, because I then went on to have another child, which I was very lucky to do. But having that ectopic pregnancy really made me feel vulnerable for the first time. And that was what led to my surgery, which was on my bladder. So
Okay.
I'm quite open about it now, but I had to catheterize for 18 months because of the ectopic pregnancy. It damaged my bladder. So they went in and removed some scar tissue, and they didn't realize my bladder was damaged, and removing the scar tissue sent me into urine retention. And when I came round from surgery, which is what led to me eating and drinking wine, was because I couldn't pass urine by myself. And so I had 4 operations, or maybe 5, to try and fix that, which I'm very grateful it did. I haven't catheterized for about 8 years now. But it was that was a real, and it was all of that that really changed my relationship with my husband. We've been together a long time, but I suddenly became very vulnerable and not the confident, loud, bubbly person I was. And it changed our dynamics significantly. And I don't think we ever really recovered from that. He didn't really know how to handle this crying me that had been. And that then, because of all the damage with the bladder, because of my ectopic pregnancy, I ended up starting to spiral with the anxiety, something I'd never even dreamed would happen to me, because I was always the confident, almost maybe a little bit cocky sometimes. And people didn't believe me. That was probably one of my biggest challenges when I was in the NHS. They didn't believe that I was sick, and that ultimately is what to my demise of leaving there, because I felt very unsupported, because on the outside I still looked, because I could wear a mask, I could put that bubbly, loud, confident person on, but inside I was really, really struggling. And really the last 10 years, that's been my biggest challenge, my mental wellness. For the last 18 months, I haven't suffered with any anxiety that isn't normal anxiety. Like we do, not anxiety is a normal response. What I tried to do sometimes was to have never ever had a negative emotion, because I wanted to fight it. And I've realized now that anxiety and anxiousness is normal. We should have that. When it becomes out of control or irrational is when it's a challenge. And so for the last 18 months, I've not really struggled with that outside of it being normal. And when I have faced it, because life happens, like I was up last week and anxious about my son who had a migraine during his GCSEs, and it was heartbreaking. But that was a normal response. And then that passed, once that moment had passed. In the past, when I had really bad anxiety, small things would trigger and spiral, and I would go down a rabbit hole that I couldn't get myself out of.
So talking about that, how do you manage your stress to the point where you don't kind of overreact and let it become a problem?
So I have a very, one might call regimented, I have a self-care regime. I didn't react well to medication for my anxiety. It made me feel like I was high as a kite. I felt like poison in I only had one. It felt like I was poison in my body. And I made a decision there and then that I wasn't going to have medication, and because I couldn't function. And as a single mum, I can't not function whilst I'm getting adjusted to a medication. So I started doing some gratitude. I started doing affirmations, and I really realized how negative I was to myself, because I'd say the grateful. I'm not really grateful for that at all. I'm not grateful for anything at the moment. My house is a mess. My children are naughty. My husband's horrible. He wasn't, like it was literally nothing. I was not grateful for anything because I was that far gone. And when I did affirmations, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And I realized that I couldn't have eye contact with my own self. And when I said I'm beautiful, the little voice in my head said, well, you're not really. And so I did that a lot. And if you look in my phone every day, I still do that. I do that every single day. I watch my nutrition, because someone very wise said to me, you can't control how you feel, but you can control what you put in your mouth and how that exacerbate how you feel. I reduced alcohol significantly, almost to the fact that I don't really drink. I used to drink quite a lot. And I remember saying to friends, I only feel calm when I'm drinking wine. But I thought that was okay. I was quite happy with that. I didn't drink all the time. I'd drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I'd have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. But I'd almost live for those days to feel calm. And I stopped drinking. I very rarely drink now. I have the odd glass of wine, the odd gin. When I do, everyone laughs because I can't see after just one. But I'm very aware that is a real trigger for me, alcohol. It sends me into beer fear. It sends me into anxiety. I overthink everything. And so I've really managed a lot of it with that. I exercise every day. That's been really good for my mindset. That could be yoga, it could be spinning, it could be weightlifting. So I really vary it so it's not damaging to my body, but that's part of my routine. And I meditate and very much do spiritual cards and things. And that's all evolved over time. That the first thing I did was gratitude and affirmations. And then I couldn't meditate. I couldn't even switch my brain off. I would either fall asleep or just not even listen. And then I tried Headspace, where it told me to think, to not have no thought. And then if a thought came by, to let it pass. And he just irritated me. He didn't do anything wrong. It was just, I think a lot of people, when you're not ready for that meditation, it's almost a bit too much. And so I actually learned to meditate by myself and realized that sometimes it's just about having some deep breaths and taking some peace. And if those thoughts do come in, don't try and fight them, allow them to come in, because this is you now adjusting and rebalancing. So I do a lot of that. I connect with spirit guides. I've gone from completely skeptical to spirituality to a bit of a witch, to be fair.
I love that. Welcome to the club.
Regimented. And, you know, when I talk to people who are struggling and they say, oh, I've stopped doing my gratitude, I don't understand that. If it helped, why would you stop? Like, I just don't. And that's why I'm more than willing to make choices that are right for me food-wise, because how I feel now compared to how I felt 10 years ago, 8 years ago, even 6 years ago, I never want to go back to that. Never.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's so inspiring, because those are things that, you know, we might have been through different experiences and different traumas, but the results are the same. The way that we feel is the same. And there are so many people that are kind of trapped in that and don't know how to get out of that feeling. It's just, that becomes their normal, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah. And it was my normal for a very, very long time. And I said that I no one would know I could put a mask on. And I said I didn't have an ego, which I obviously did because I said that. But I was very, very close, very, very close. You know, when people were talking to me about personal development, self-development, what book are you reading? Inside of the oh, shut up. That's why, I mean, I didn't say that, but I was literally in my head. I think my eyes probably said that. So, and I don't really know what made me eventually try it. I think it was a case of, I can't take the medication. I need to try and do something. So what could I try? And what about if I try it for 30 days? And that's what I commit myself to doing. And then what? And that's kind of how it's not spiral, because that's a bad thing. That's how it's evolved.
So I know that so you've replaced the physio work full time now with the network marketing. So how do you balance? It does give you those opportunities to have that time freedom, but how do you balance the work and life?
So for me, I kind of work on and off. I don't work set hours. I probably loosely do 12 till 3 most days during the week when the kids are at school.
Yeah.
But I know what activities I need to do in my business. So I need to find people to talk to gain customers and build a sales team. And that's all I have to do. And there are different ways I can do that. Face to face, I can do that on social media. And so I suppose in my mind, I know what I need to do. And my day, like next week, it's half term and it's Matthew's birthday. So we'll be off doing things. But at some point during the day, I know I'll get some time and I'll then come down to work. But I don't have a schedule. I don't have set hours. Now, some of my business partners, they prefer to be very rigid and almost take themselves to work, because their mindset is if they're not having set hours, they won't actually do the work. But for me, it doesn't feel like hard work, and it just kind of naturally flows. And I like doing it. So the same as if you like reading a good book, you can't wait to pick it up again. So when I'm out with the kids or I'm out somewhere for dinner and I come back, I'm more than willing to see if anything's in there that I need to deal with, good or bad, even if it's someone saying they're not getting good results. I thrive on what I do. So I wouldn't say I have a work private life balance. Like, I'm currently in my living room. I don't have an office. I've got one, I don't use it because that works for me. So everybody is different. For me, having the rigidity of working 10 till 2 every day or whatever it might be would then take me into pressure the same as I was in physio. And even though my mental well-being is so much better than it was, I categorically know that I couldn't cope with the pressure of having patient after patient after patient after patient. And so for me, it's very fluid. And even down to the other day, I was setting up a Calendly link, couldn't do it because I don't want to be rigid on my times. So, but I'd much rather be chatting to you and you go, are you free at this time? And I go, yes, I am. Because I'm quite flexible, I can be. Obviously, when I was doing this alongside working, then I had to be a little bit more rigid. But there was an end goal in mind. And part of the attraction to this for me is that my life runs around, my business runs around my personal life. But because it is something I love, it's high on my priority. So therefore, it is something I put a lot of time into because I love it. But if you rang me and said, do you want to go for a walk now? I'd go, yeah, I've got nothing on, yeah, I'll go. And I like that flexibility and freedom.
Absolutely. And that is one of the biggest sort of draws to this kind of work is that it does give you that time and money freedom.
I would say the time and the choice is the best, is bigger than any money, really, in any sense. You know, lots of people are earning lots of money, but they're working ridiculous hours.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, I could put more in and work and earn more. But my priority the last 5 years has been very much being a present mum. My youngest, who's nearly 12, has no idea what it's like for his mum to go to work because I never have. But yet we live in a nice 4-bedroom house. We've been to lap lounge. I drive a nice car. They don't, if they want to do activities, I can manage to support them with that. We're going to Florida in the summer. And so it really is, that for me is priceless. He has no idea. He'll message me after school, can I bring some friends home? Yes, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. Yeah. But I understand when I was working, my oldest has a different experience because he had me working until he was left primary school. So for him to, I left work 7 years ago, but I was at work while he was at private school. So he had the stay in after school club. My youngest wants to go to after school when he was at primary school. And I was like, you don't go there, but I want to go because he's not. So but that for me is more significant than any money.
And you've recently been away, so there are opportunities to have trips away and to meet these global partners as well, which I bet is really exciting.
We just went to Fiji, which I went round the world in 160 hours.
You had a bit of problem at the airport, didn't you?
Yeah, I had no ESTA because I had a new passport and I didn't realise the passport was related to the ESTA. So that was very stressful. We went Manchester, London, LA, Fiji, Melbourne, Singapore, Dubai, Manchester. So
you really did go around the world.
I went to every continent in 7 days. We left on the Monday, we came back on the Monday. What a fabulous trip that was. You know, I've been to Vegas, I've been to Iceland, I've been to Mexico twice, I've been to Paris, I've been to Nashville, I've been to Ibiza, I've been to Orlando, Fiji, and then we're going to Orlando in July, and they've just launched our most recent trip, which is what's great about these trips is open to anybody. So anybody, whether they've started or not, can join and become part of that. This one's a team trip. So I
saw that
on my team right now. So I've never done that before, and that's to go to Marrakesh in October. So effectively this year, if or when I win that, then I'll have been on holiday 3 times this year, paid for by the company. I also went on a business trip to Belgium not so long ago, which was lovely as well. So you get a lot of opportunity to travel within the company, but also if you're working flexible hours, I don't have that kind of blessing because of the two small children. But a lot of my business partners, one of them I was speaking to the other day, she's in the Caribbean right now. She was in Hong Kong before. I'm like, where are you? Because I never know where to be. And that's the beauty about it, is she can do it anywhere. My goal when the boys have left home is to do very much similar, to really live a life. If I fancy going away, I can. If I want to come back, I can. Like right now, I don't really want to get on a plane for a little while after 168 hours. That was a little bit insane. My legs were swollen, but it's that flexibility. I mean, I've said that a few times, but that really is the opportunity to travel and not have time restraints or money restraints. So obviously, quite often you might have the money, but your job doesn't allow you to take the time off, or vice versa.
And it sounds like you've had an amazing journey. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned along that path?
Wow. So when I started in the industry, the biggest lesson I had was that I thought everyone would say yes, because I thought everyone would see what I saw. And so my biggest lesson was that not everyone saw it like I saw it. And that just blew my mind. And so in the beginning, I was probably a little bit in people's faces, a little bit along the way. I think also it's about not having too much emotional attachment on someone else's goals. So yes, you want to know what someone else's goals in and support them, but you can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves. And the biggest lesson I learned from my mentor was to, when you're working with people, so our industry is great. And what makes it great is the people. But what also makes it awful is the people. So it's because people can be, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. And then something happens at home and they disappear and they come back. And so really the biggest thing I had to learn was to match energy for energy. And so if someone said they want to earn 10 grand a month, but their effort is really only looking at them earning a couple of £100 a month, then to be okay with that, and to have that conversation and to almost play a game of tennis. So I give you to do this, you go, you come back, you get the next thing. Whereas before I probably used to try and motivate and drag people right in the beginning, because I knew what this could do, and I still do. And I expected, or I wanted you to have that same feeling. But what I have to understand, and we all have to understand, is everybody's journey is different. We're all on a different life journey, and we'll take that journey to the end goal a different way. And so that probably was one of a couple of my biggest learnings that have come from that. Other than that, I had to learn social media, because before I started, I wasn't on social media. I had 200 friends, didn't post. If I did, I got one like if I was lucky. And at the time when I was really poorly, I couldn't go out and speak to people. I couldn't make it worse. So I did social media. And social media, I taught myself. I've never been on a paid course or anything. And so that was a really big learning curve, because I'm not technical. I couldn't make images on Canva, but I just kind of played around and learned it and studied it. I watched what other people are doing. But that has been a really big overcoming challenge, because it's something now that's my expertise. My expertise is to support people in creating an endless amount of leads online without paying for it, because I don't pay. I don't pay for any paid ads or anything like that. And so, but considering 10 years ago, I didn't even post. If I did, I got one like. I love showing people. When I look back at memories, I'm like, look, my posts are terrible. I wouldn't be on social media if it wasn't for the fact that it pays my bills.
Yeah. And what about your time working in the NHS? What were your biggest lessons from that period?
Wow. I didn't want to work in the NHS. So the NHS changed a lot from when I was there in the beginning. It was a brilliant environment when we worked, and then budget cost waiting lists went up. We had a job freeze for a number of years, and that really, really changed morale. It really did. But I learned a lot from there. I learned a lot about managing my diary. I learned a lot about systems. Like a lot of what I do now is systemized, and that came from me having to assess a patient and in my head going through the problem, what their aggravating factors, their easing factors. So there's a lot of transferable skills. I think
Yeah.
one of the things that I learned in the NHS was to to help someone come to their problem, but not to let them go on for hours and hours. Because once you open someone up, sometimes they can just tell you everything, and obviously you are on a tight schedule in terms of your appointment time. So I got very good at being able to steer that conversation back to where we wanted to be, but at the same time having a lot of empathy for that person because really wanted to understand that. And I suppose what the NHS taught me is the traditional structure and model of a business, and that's not really where I wanted to be, but that's where I always thought I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
I had goals. I wanted to get up to the next level. I had to wait for a job to become available for me to apply and then be competing with other people. And that was all I knew. So that taught me a big lesson in what I didn't want.
I love those kind of lessons. Finally, what advice would you give to someone who wants to live a healthier, happier, and more balanced lifestyle? Having achieved that for yourself.
So it's being committed to yourself and to be open to if you want to make a change to your health and your overall well-being, there is no magic potion. There is no click a finger and it can all be. You have to commit to you first and foremost, and you have to and if you don't, and if you're not following what you said you're going to do, it's because you haven't got enough self-love for yourself. Because if you have, you will prioritize that. So I suppose for me, it's really focusing on your own self-love, your own journey, and being true to yourself and committed to your own goals. And if you are wavering with going, do I go to the gym? Do I not want to go to the gym? Or meditating, I'm too busy. Asking yourself, which is hard to do, is what I'm doing now going to take me further away or closer? Is it going to support me in my well-being, or is it going to take me away? Now, I know when I go out, sometimes have a few drinks, I know that's taking me away, but I'm okay with that. And I almost accept that next day I might spiral a little bit. But what I wouldn't then do is do it over and over again, because that isn't being kind to myself. And the biggest reason we don't follow our goals and our well-being is self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes it's really coming back to what's the most important thing to you and what do you deserve the most. And I don't feel I live an unfulfilled life at all. I feel I live a much more fulfilled life. And actually that's without some of the things that I thought I couldn't live without before, like the wine and eating loads of wrong foods and things like that. I still like my sweets. That's my downfall. So I am a bit of a sweetie fiend. But again, I do it in moderation. So I
Yeah.
think my advice is your biggest thing is to be committed to you, and that's okay, because we so often aren't. We prioritize ourselves on the bottom of the list, but actually by committing to yourself, you're actually committing to a higher level to everyone around you. Because if you fill your cup first, I'm sure people have heard that before. It's the same as the oxygen mask, isn't it? You've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself to then help others in the best way. Whereas we do the opposite, and we tend to sort our families out with their meal and then grab what's left if we're not eating the right foods, or we're racing around here, there, and everywhere. So that's probably the thing. Commit to you and really dive into self-love, and that you deserve to feel as good as you should feel.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that advice, Michelle. And thank you for joining me today for today's episode. Loads of golden nuggets, and I knew it was going to be inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story with us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found the discussion and the tips covered really helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do leave a rating and a review and share it with your friends and family. Pop along to our website at thefullspectrumcentrelimited.com and join our self-care and wellness newsletter club. You'll receive our free 55-page printable self-care guide and workbook. Well, that's all for this episode, but I really look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and bye for now.